Hello watch lovers! Today we're comparing the Omega Seamaster 300M and Tudor's Black Bay 58. Two dive watches you'll probably be familiar with, unless you've spent the last few years living under a giant head on Easter Island. The two watches are modern classics, high spec, high quality, and both from legendary brands, each offering great value at their respective price points. What's more, both the Seamaster and Black Bay collections are best sellers for their respective brands, and hail from the tool watch school of hard knocks. So here we pit these rivals against each other in a bruising, blue-themed battle between two real-world alternatives to the Rolex Submariner. Take your seats, buckle up, because things are about to get tasty. But first, let's take a quick look at the contrasting origins of these two watches. Omega Seamaster may be one of the most famous dive watches around, with a name that makes it sound like it's the final boss of the underwater world, but the first ever Seamaster, released in 1948, was anything but. It looked more like a dress watch than anything, and it didn't become the dive watch we recognise today until 1957 with the arrival of the Seamaster 300. And unlike its predecessor, it featured a proper diving bezel, screwed case, and a water resistance of 300 metres, hence the name. This was the dawn of a golden age of dive watches, and from then on, the Seamaster became a sprawling collection that encompassed everything from chronographs to oversized oddballs like the Ploprof. Fast forward to 1993, where the new look Seamaster 300M was introduced. It quickly became one of the world's most visible watches thanks to Pierce Brosnan's wearing a blue dial quartz version in his 1995 James Bond debut GoldenEye. This current reference, with the location of the date window now switched from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, was introduced in 2018 and marked the 25th anniversary of that 1993 model. And although some early examples of the 300M had quartz models, the series is now fully automatic. As for the Tudor, the Black Bay line was first launched in 2012, taking its design cues from Tudor and Rolex Submariners of the 1950s. The 58 family released several years later in 2018, with the 58 addendum a reference to the year that Tudor first introduced a diver's watch waterproof to 200 metres. This was the reference 7924, nicknamed the Big Crown. For the 58 family, it was a black dial version that was unveiled first, with faux-aged lume and gilt-printed text that gave it warm vintage vibes and instant acclaim. And this was followed 2 years later by a crisper, more contemporary-looking all-blue version. Both these Black Bay 58s were discontinued in 2026, but whereas the black dial version was immediately replaced with an updated model, the blue dial version wasn't. I mean, what the actual heck? This leaves the current Black Bay lineup with no blue model, although it's highly unlikely to stay that way. I mean, come on. The Omega 300M is now considered a dive watch classic, thanks to several signature design features. The most notable of these is the polished blue ceramic dial with a laser engraved wave pattern, a subtle visual reminder of what this watch is built for. That's right, deflecting lasers, I mean diving beneath the waves. The matching blue ceramic bezel has a white enamel diving scale with minute markers going all the way around, and unlike aluminium bezels, which get scratched up more than the staff at the shelter for troubled cats, ceramic is scratch resistant, and it won't fade as easily in the sunshine either. As mentioned, the date window on the 300M was previously at 3 o'clock, but now in the new location at 6 o'clock, it gives the dial more symmetry. The skeleton handset is rhodium plated and part filled with white superluminova, while the raised dot hour markers are fully lumed. The Seamaster name and the tip of the lollipop seconds hand are red and stand out from the otherwise two-colour aesthetic. Meanwhile, the Tudor is in a lighter shade of blue and opts for a more austere, pattern-free dial that's in keeping with its military heritage. Like the Omega, the hour markers are spots filled with superluminova, and there's no mistaking the signature bold snowflake hour hand. And did you know that it's widely believed that the snowflake hand originally came about due to a specific request by the Marine Nationale, who needed better legibility in murky water? I mean, who could possibly refuse the request of a demanding military-trained Frenchman in a wetsuit? Not me. Anyway, it's now hard to believe that Tudor phased out this distinctive feature in the 1980s before flaking out and bringing it back for the brand's 21st century reboot. The bezel, meanwhile, is aluminium, and the printed minute markers on the diving scale stop at 15. Unlike the shallow knurling of the Omega, the Tudor's bezel is finely coin-edged, and I find that this provides slightly better grippage. Like all Black Bay 58s, this is a time-only watch, so there's no date function, and this enhances its stripped-down, no-nonsense look. This is definitely a watch that wears its battle scars with pride. For fans of vintage Rolex Submariners, this is also a watch that bears far more of a resemblance to the earliest subs than any current Rolex model. The most striking difference between the cases of the Tudor and the Omega is the latter's addition of a helium escape valve. This extra crown at 10 o'clock, which leaves some first-time watch buyers baffled, can be unscrewed during decompression to release any helium that has permeated the watch. Now, unless professional deep-sea diver person is your actual job, the odds of you ever needing this are about the same as your chances of getting attacked by a great white shark in the Thames. Not exactly zero, but still. As is so often the case with watch complications, the appeal lies more in its existence rather than its use. The Omega's crown at 3 o'clock is slightly recessed into protective shoulders, but the Tudor takes no such precautions. This adds to its vintage 1950s looks, back in the days before Rolex and Tudor introduced this feature. Omega's twisted lyre-style lugs give it a more sculpted look that chimes nicely with the waves on the dial, while the Tudors are flatter with a little chamfering to smooth away those sharp edges. The Omega comes with an exhibition caseback, revealing the automatic movement. But with Tudor, this is something you'll find only in its gold, silver, or ceramic Black Bays. Like Rolex's stainless steel sports models, Tudor's casebacks are kept plain, reinforcing its utilitarian tool watch vibe. Both watches are paired with stainless steel bracelets with fold-over clasps, but the Omega's comfort setting with its push-button slider is easier to use than Tudor's more manual system, which might involve poking around with a cocktail stick, or alternatively referencing the owner's handbook. The Black Bay's bracelet is the 3-link oyster style with its love them or hate them faux rivets, while the Seamaster's famous 9-column bracelet is one of the most distinctive around and features a combination of brushed and polished links. As to be expected of a dive watch, both can be comfortably worn swimming and scuba diving, but the Omega's 300-meter water resistance tops the Tudor's by 100 meters. Or, if you want to get nautical, I know you do, 54.68 fathoms. The Black Bay 58 comes with a COSC-certified chronometer movement, in this case the caliber MT5402. Hidden behind the closed caseback, this manufacture movement has a 70-hour power reserve that's on par with most Rolex models, and Tudor has recently begun to replace these movements with ones that are both COSC and METAS certified, but these come with a slightly lower power reserve. The Tudor's really up against it here, as the Seamaster comes with the impressive METAS certified caliber 8800. And as with almost all modern day Omegas, this features the coaxial escapement, which is more precise, stable and durable than a regular lever escapement, with significantly less friction and less need for lubrication. This is one of those movements that enthusiasts tend to smile about whenever it's mentioned. Omega's coaxial escapement is a genuinely meaningful piece of engineering, rather than a marketing gimmick. That said, its power reserve lags behind the Black Bay at around 55 hours, but still just enough to get through the weekend. And its beat rate is slightly slower too, with Omega's caliber 8800 having a beat rate of 25,200 VPH, while Tudor's caliber MT5402 beats at 28,800 VPH. As we've mentioned, the Omega 300M was once worn by James Bond, but his shirt cuffs must have been a lot billowier than mine. On the wrist, this sits a little high at 13.56mm, and it's much thicker than the 11.9mm of the Tudor. The Omega's case diameter is also noticeably bigger at 42mm compared to the Tudor's 39mm, which is in line with the vintage models that inspire it. And until Omega finally acquiesce and give us a Seamaster in anything smaller than 42mm, then for me it's the Black Bay 58's 39mm case that sits more comfortably on the wrist. But let's not forget that these are sports watches. As versatile as they are, they were made for special forces types and scuba divers. These are the kind of robust watches that we, as humble civilians, will mostly be wearing to the beach, at our desk, or just with casual daily wear. If you want slim and elegant, then you can go knocking on Patek Philippe's door. You can tell them I sent you if you want. It won't mean anything to them, but you can tell them anyway. But different watches appeal to different people. The Seamaster is for somebody who wants a more distinctive design, refined aesthetics, crisp details, and technical precision. It'll also float your boat if you're an avid James Bond fan, who likes his Martini shaken, not stirred, his Aston Martin fast, not furious, and his GQ subscription physical, not digital. The Tudor, on the other hand, is for somebody who values restraint. It's simpler, more vintage-inspired, and perhaps a little less flashy, with a pared-down dial that's all essence and no excess. Oh, and if you're one for colour coordination and find that a blue watch jars with your favourite green party shirt, then each one is available in a more versatile black. As for pricing, the Omega is £5,600 at RRP, while this particular Tudor reference is no longer available brand new, but current models in the Black Bay 58 lineup are around £4,100, about £1,500 less than a brand new Seamaster 300. It's not the biggest chasm in pricing, but the true value can be found on the pre-owned market, where the Tudor can be had for around £2,750 pre-owned, while the Omega can be picked up for around £4,500 pre-owned. So there's no getting around it. The Seamaster and the Black Bay will always face the inevitable Rolex Submariner comparisons. But neither is trying to actually be a Submariner. In many ways, the Seamaster has now moved beyond the Submariner, while the Tudor feels more like a love letter to the era that created it. Both deserve to be treated as classics in their own right. So which one are you leaning towards? Why not mull it over maybe with a martini in hand if that's your bag, and let us know what you think in the comments below. Cheers. James cheers. If you want to check out more amazing watches, then why not head over to watchfinder.com and find your next pre-owned luxury watch. Or stick around and watch this video on the 10 best dive watches for every budget. Check it out and I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.